September 15, 1945. A few weeks had passed since Japan's surrender, yet for the women stepping off a transport truck in the Philippine jungle, the war felt far from over. Their kimonos hung in tatters, mud caked their sandals, or what was left of them, and each step into the American camp felt like stepping into a world they had never imagined could exist. The sun cut sharp shadows across the uneven ground, turning puddles into mirrors reflecting the faces of exhausted, weary captives. One American soldier approached, holding a cup of steaming soup. The steam curled into the humid air, and for a moment some of the women froze, unsure whether to accept it. Relief warred with disbelief. For years, the Pacific theater had been defined by extremes: harsh climates, scarce food, disease, and brutality. Japanese POWs, particularly women, were expected to endure the worst. Stories circulated of malnourished prisoners, rampant illness, and violence unchecked by authority. Yet here at this American camp, the reality was nearly unrecognizable. Organized barracks, warm meals, medical care, and, most shockingly, hygiene. It was a startling contrast, from horror to hospitality. Where starvation and sickness had been the norm, the women found order, cleanliness, and surprisingly, kindness. Female POWs were rare. Most captured were men. Historical records suggest only 200 to 300 women Japanese POWs were held in Allied custody across the Pacific. This small number, combined with their unexpected treatment, set the stage for experiences that would forever challenge their assumptions about humanity. One woman later described the small, almost absurd miracles that greeted her: a toothbrush, fresh towels, a hot meal. It seemed almost impossible after years of rationed rice and cold water, and yet it was true. Guards and nurses, trained in humane management of prisoners, moved among the barracks. Some were women, some men. All carried themselves with professional courtesy, offering guidance without condescension, care without paternalism. The sensory shock was immediate. The smell of freshly baked bread drifted from the mess hall. Floors, scrubbed with chlorine, gleamed instead of reeking with the stench of overcrowded, unsanitary quarters. Small garden plots dotted the camp, where vegetables grew in neat rows. For women who had survived air raids and near starvation, the idea that they could pick fresh greens from soil tended with care was almost laughable. And yet it was real. According to U.S. War Department records, female POWs received 3 meals daily, blankets, mosquito nets, and access to medical care. An arrangement that contrasted sharply with the rations of a few rice balls their male counterparts in Japanese-run camps often subsisted on. Nutrition alone transformed them. Weeks of malnourishment reversed, strength returned, and with it, a fragile sense of hope. The women's reactions were as vivid as their surroundings. "I thought it was a trick. No one had fed me properly in years," one whispered in disbelief. Another recalled, "They smiled while serving soup. I kept expecting them to strike." And yet, slowly, the skepticism softened. They noticed the little gestures: a nurse checking a temperature, a guard adjusting a blanket, a cook quietly offering seconds to someone who looked particularly frail. A subtle, ironic humor threaded through these moments. For survivors of air raids, typhoons, and near starvation, a clean pillow and hot soup felt like a royal banquet, a small luxury, absurdly lavish after years of deprivation. And in that absurdity, The women began to laugh quietly among themselves, hesitant at first, then with growing confidence. This was more than sustenance. It was a transformation of perception. Fear and suspicion gave way to cautious trust. Human kindness, unexpected and deliberate, reshaped their understanding of the world. Each act, each smile, each clean floorboard, challenged the narrative of the enemy as merciless. And yet, even as relief began to settle in, they sensed there was more to come. Lessons that would test their hearts and leave an imprint far deeper than any hunger ever had. But what came next shocked them even more, and would redefine how they remembered the war forever. The morning sun spilled over the American camp, turning dew-soaked grass into a shimmering carpet. Women, once prisoners of a war-hardened empire, now walked barefoot, their laughter rippling through the open spaces as they chased chickens through a makeshift garden. The contrast could not have been starker. Tattered kimonos against bright camp tents, weary faces now lighted with delight. It was as if the world had inverted itself overnight, trading the rigidity of military life for routines shaped by care, order, and unexpected freedom. Daily life in the camp followed a structured rhythm, a balance between discipline and nurturing. Mornings began with chores, sweeping floors, tending gardens, organizing supplies. Afternoons offered classes in literacy, English, and practical skills, sewing, cooking, even music. In some camps, a piano sat in the corner, and women timidly plucked its keys, producing hesitant melodies that, for them, were as foreign as the kindness surrounding them. Communal meals punctuated the day, each dish a small rebellion against years of scarcity. Books were passed hand to hand, laughter echoed in the dining hall, and slowly, a sense of normalcy emerged. The health improvements were tangible. Malnourished bodies began to regain weight, strength returned to aching limbs, and diseases that had plagued them in captivity waned under proper medical care. According to U.S. Army reports, morale among female Japanese POWs surged within the first month of arrival, a remarkable turnaround for a group conditioned to suspicion and fear. Nearly 90% received treatment for chronic malnutrition and related illnesses, care that not only restored their bodies, but also rekindled their sense of self-worth. Social interactions added another layer of transformation. Nurses patiently taught basic English phrases, while some women shared their culinary knowledge, preparing simple Japanese dishes for American staff. Meals became a dialogue of cultures, steaming bowls of rice and vegetables replacing thin, dry rice balls, shared with stories, laughter, and a fragile trust. One can almost imagine the scene. A long table laden with colorful vegetables, steaming soup, and soft bread, the aroma mingling with sun-warmed air, a stark contrast to the grim rations of their past. Personal testimonies reflect the depth of this change. For the first time in years, I felt like a human being, not a number. One woman recalled, voice trembling at the memory. Simple gestures, the guard helping with laundry, a nurse smoothing a blanket, shared laughter over clumsy English attempts, taught lessons that words alone could not convey. Letters home became lifelines, the act of writing itself a reclaiming of agency that years of captivity had stripped away. Even in the midst of healing, humor persisted. One guard reportedly attempted to teach a group of women how to line dance. The results were, by all accounts, memorable. A clumsy shuffle of feet, arms flailing, and laughter that broke the lingering tension in the camp. These small moments of levity served as proof that even in the aftermath of war, joy could exist, fragile yet persistent. The emotional and ideological transformation was perhaps the most profound. These women, trained to anticipate cruelty and vengeance, found compassion instead. The unexpected humanity challenged their worldview, compelling them to reconsider what was possible even among former enemies. The irony was unmistakable. Those who had feared cruelty discovered kindness. Those who had expected indifference experienced attentiveness. By the end of their internment, what might have been the darkest chapter of their lives became a story of hope and resilience. The camp, simple as it was, offered a small paradise, a space where survival was not merely measured by physical endurance, but by the rekindling of dignity and trust. And the lessons endured. The experience left indelible impressions on their memory of the war, shaping their understanding of reconciliation, humanity, and the subtle, transformative power of care. As the sun set over the camp, shadows lengthening across the gardens and tents, one could almost hear the unspoken reflection. It was a small paradise in a world scarred by conflict, proof that even in war, humanity could survive quietly in unexpected places. And yet, this story was only part of a larger narrative, one that would ripple through their lives long after they returned home, carrying lessons of mercy, patience, and the fragile, persistent light of human kindness.